Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today we're going to be talking about 10 eyeshadow palettes that are in my collection and ask ourselves the question, would I repurchase these? Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This is a video series I like to do on this channel once a month where I take a stack of 10 palettes randomly from my makeup collection and we ask ourselves a hypothetical question, which is twofold. On the one hand, these palettes, I'm going to be asking the question, like if I were to lose these or if they somehow disappeared from my collection, would I miss them? Would it be something that I would miss in my collection and I would then go on the hunt for? But the other side of this question that I always feel goes sort of hand in hand is also the question, if these kind of color stories came out today, would I still be interested in purchasing them? Like, would this still be something that would make it into my collection so many years onwards? Because some of these I've had for quite some time. And today we're doing a slightly colorful edition. I'm wearing quite a colorful eye look today. I was like, if I'm pushing myself a little bit out of what I would normally wear makeup-wise, we might as well talk about some palettes that maybe I don't use as often as I should. So there's that, definitely. For those of you who might be new to my channel, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, and this greatly influences how I feel about makeup. I love coming onto this channel to talk about eyeshadow palettes, essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of my makeup. And if you're interested in getting the opinion of someone who's been reviewing makeup for more than a decade, then maybe you'd like to stay tuned. So yes, I have a nice little stack here, and as I mentioned, all of these things have one thing in common. These are some of the most colorful eyeshadow palettes in my collection, or at least they have colors that I don't normally reach for, and some of these palettes, I look at them and I'm like, oh, why haven't I used you more? So first things first, we need to tackle one thing, because in case you don't know, I am in the midst of posting all of my decluttering videos, and there was a palette I had forgotten about. Now, technically, I think the Glamlite Cake palette counts as a declutter already. So I decluttered this a couple of years ago, but I still had this sitting in my office space on a shelf as decoration, and I was like, after my declutter, I was like, I should just give this away to someone because this is just not my perfect color story. In case you don't know, this is just the packaging. It looks like an oven, really cute. And this is what the palette itself looks like. It is birthday cake shaped, and then this is what we get inside, which is like a full-on sort of like rainbow color story. That's what we get with this one. So here's what all the colors look like. We get a few shimmers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shimmers, and everything else is a matte. And this was my first Glamlite palette. And I bought this because for so many people, the year it came out, it was like their favorite palette. And so many people were raving about this, and I was definitely in my like colorful phase when I bought this. Yes, people, I've had a colorful phase where I was wearing rainbow color stories almost every single day. Because I wanted to see what colors looked great on me, and then using something like this can work. And that taught me that, like, how important it is to get right undertones, because you might think that I would love these like vibrant blues and greens on myself, but these looked very muddy on me, and I ended up not loving any of the shimmers in this. So if we just judge this palette at face value, would I go out and repurchase it? No, there's a reason why I decided to declutter, because this is just not my favorite color story. But color story wise, when it comes to colorful eyeshadow palettes, I get sucked into things like this. I very much feel very interested in these. So yeah, even though this color story wasn't perfect for me because of how the shades pool and the shimmers not being that great, color stories like this always suck me in. They always do. Even though I'm not like really big on wearing a lot of colorful makeup in my day-to-day life, I do really enjoy palettes like this. And I do really enjoy wearing color. It brings me joy to play around with a rainbow-like color story and having just a grand old time. I just really, really do. The reason why I don't wear them more often isn't because I don't want to wear them. It just takes too much brain power in the morning when I'm getting ready for work to be putting things together like this. Because as pretty as this is, there are some really stunning shades. Like this peachy matte is absolutely really, really amazing. And also like the purples in here were really nice. But yeah, overall, I just wasn't a huge fan of this palette, which is why I ended up decluttering, which is why I wouldn't repurchase it per se. But yeah, I get sucked in by rainbow-like color stories all the time. And now that I know what colors actually suit me, and I tend to seek out those things a little bit more than just buying like a generic rainbow-like palette, because I feel with rainbow palettes I get too many shades that don't quite suit my skin tone. So that's why a colorful palette like this, I find it easier and easier to say no to them. But definitely there for a while, I was very much into trying all of the rainbow palettes, and I still have a couple that I like, that I will keep around, but I think rainbow color stories are very much ticked off in my makeup collection, that I don't need anymore. Because with rainbow color stories, it tends to be like, once you have one, you have them all. The second palette I want to discuss is this Kaleidos palette, the rectangular one, the Astro Pink. This was their Futurism collection. I think a couple of these are still around, but I believe in this one in particular has been discontinued. I have always enjoyed these. I really enjoy the packaging. You get a magnet that holds it together, and then inside you get 6 shades. And in here I did make some changes, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this shade here, the black, is a sparkling black in the original palette. However, I had all of the Futurism palettes at some point, and the Futurism Sci-Fi Greens, the first one that came out, wasn't that great for me because I already have the Melt Gemini and I felt there was too much of an overlap. So I decided to pull that apart, but I still have the packaging because I reused it. But I ended up loving the black in that palette the most. This is one of the best black eyeshadows ever made. And because I'm not a huge fan of these like mattes that have a little bit of sparkle in them, I decided to replace the sparkling black in this palette with the matte black from the Sci-Fi Green. So if you're looking like, if you're thinking, that doesn't seem to be the original palette, that's exactly why. But yeah, this is still in my collection. And this has the option to be more colorful if you pull in that teal and like that pinky plum shade. But as you can see here off to the side, you also get some really pretty neutrals. So this palette just has the potential to do a lot. And the reason why it gets to stay for me is the teal. It's the teal that draws me in. That's the thing that makes me go like, I would like to keep that around. I definitely need to put this in a palettes I need to go back to though, because I haven't used this in such a long time. But the way these feel, they feel very luxurious. They weren't overly expensive. Like, I think like a lot of people have been saying that Kaleidos is becoming boring. I don't think so. I'm of a very different opinion because I love the palettes that they have been coming out with in recent years, the little quads. But I think this brings people back to almost a nostalgic time when Kaleidos were good. To me, they still are, as I mentioned. But yeah, this, I mean, from the packaging to design to the shades we got in these, there were only 2 that I ended up decluttering, which was the Sci-Fi Greens and the VR Neons. But this one is still intact and I still like it, and I still think there are some unique shades in these. They are magnetic as well, so you could pull it apart and rearrange it, or pull out that very pretty teal and put it in my singles collection. I could definitely do that at some point, but I still think this is just really stunning palette packaging, so I would definitely miss this in my collection just from how pretty it is. Do I need it though? I think I have other palettes that can do this, or at least eyeshadow in my collection for sure that can do this. So I don't think I would miss this if I ever lost it, or like I would not feel the need to go out and purchase this again because it is a little bit forgotten in my collection from that perspective. But yeah, totally. If this came out today, this kind of color story would definitely be something that I would put on the wish list, because it just has everything you need, you know? You have your 2 neutrally shades, you have this really pretty lilac which you can use all over the lid or as an inner corner highlight. The plum brings in that lilac really nicely, and then the teal is that like purple base with a lot of like blue shimmer. It's just really pretty. And the black is great as a deepening up shade or as liner. So for only 6 shades, there's so much you can do with this. This would definitely suck me in if this came out today. And since it's spring, and since I have a bunch of these Lime Crime palettes, I'm not sure whether I mentioned this one in particular before, but I believe I did mention the Chroma palette before in one of these videos. But this is the Venus 3. And this is one that is perfect for the springtime. However, I was going back to some other palettes already that I didn't really feel I could use this one as well this month. But yeah, it's just really, really pretty. Not necessarily what I go for again nowadays. I mean, in a way, it's similar to the Kaleidos, where you get some neutral shades, but there is also enough color because we get the purple, we get this like corally peach shade, we get a true pink, and then we also have this like lilac pink flippy shade. But you do get your browns, so you can do a very neutral look with this, but you could go full on colorful with this as well. It just has some really stunning shades. Again, color stories like this, I feel we don't get enough anymore. It's like either or, but this just has such a really nice blend, and I almost decluttered this a few years back, and then I pulled it because I was like, oh, I just think it's too pretty. Do I wear this a ton? No. So would I like miss it if I ever lost it, if I ever gave it away? I probably wouldn't, because I feel this is very similar to the Nabla Soul Blooming, which is currently in my Shop My Stash, because it's a really good like spring-like palette. But there's just something about this color story that makes me feel, yes, I love that. It has a really nice blend of colors that with my neutral undertone, it just works really well. So I can't say no to that. So yeah, I would like the Kaleidos. Is this something unique that I feel like really stands out in my collection? And would I miss it therefore? The answer is no. But if something like this would come out today, yes, I would definitely be interested in repurchasing this for sure. And this is just another gentle reminder, like some of these are going to end up in my April Shop My Stash. I just know it, because this guy, the Lorac Pro 4, I bought it, I reviewed it, and then never looked at it again, which is such a shame. But yeah, the Lorac formula was one that for a very long time I rated very highly. This is one though where I feel if I hadn't purchased this, I don't think I would miss it. I kind of bought it because I had all 4 of these at some point. I've decluttered numbers 1 and 2 so far. 3 has always been my favorite, and this just looked like I might really like it. It has some really nice neutralish shade, it has some warmth, but it also has some cooler tones, and it's very sort of like pinky, mauve-y sort of leaning for sure. It's got like blush rose, ice rose, merlot, black currant. So it just has some really, really good shades in this for sure. But I'm just over the Lorac formula. It's very powdery. It's very soft, which even though I've only used this like less than a handful of times, you can already see dips in these, like especially in the shimmers, because it's such a soft formula. The minute you stick your finger in, you're going to get a dip. So I just feel that this is not a must-have in my collection at all. I wouldn't miss it, so I wouldn't repurchase it if I lost it. And because I already have so many neutral tones, I think I may actually have this in other palettes as well. Like, I've been asked if I can do like an overview of like rosy tone palettes at some point, which I think in April I want to do another eyeshadow palette week, so I might just talk about some rosy tone palettes I have. But because I have the Melt and the Sigma, even though both of them like aren't super perfect for me, I think this may be a little superfluous as well. So knowing what I know now and not having the other Lorac palettes anymore to tempt me into buying any more by the brand, this is one where I'm feeling like, yeah, this I don't think would tempt me, even though it's really pretty neutrals, and because it's rosy tone, I love trying rosy tones. So that's why, so like from a colorful standpoint as well, this is like the least colorful thing in today's video. It has some really stunning shades, but something tells me that the purple background is the thing that's throwing me off. Like, If this had like the background of the Lorac Pro 3, would I like it as much? And with Lorac, you get a lot of light shades, which for my skin tone is perfect. But I know that for people with deeper skin tones, it doesn't quite work. And I also think because of this shade here, Amaretto, which is very orange looking, it kind of throws off the entire palette for me. Like if I wouldn't have that shade, can I bend it backwards so I can, like, do you just see what I mean? How much more neutral it looks if I cover this shade up. And then if this were a neutral background rather than the deep purple, I don't think it's going to look as exciting as it looks in my head. So this is one where I'm like, I don't regret purchasing it because I do like having some Lorac. And I think from all of the ones I've had together with the Lorac Pro 3, this is one of the better ones for my skin tone, like compared to like the 1 and 2 that I've tried. But yeah, I don't think I would miss this, and I don't think it would tempt me yet again. I'm saying that now. If a brand drops a color story like today with like rosy tones, yeah, I might actually be tempted. I might be tempted. Another sort of rosy color story, I don't know why I went for these, but Millennial Pinks from Melt Cosmetics, which nobody liked apart from me. Like, there are very few people on the planet who liked some of those Melt palettes we got around this time. The Millennial Pinks was one of them. And this is essentially a rosy toned color story. This is essentially a rosy toned color story. As you can see, you get a lot of pink. There's one peach. These are quite light, and then you just have these like grayish blues on this end with like a white shimmer. This is really pretty. Like, I'm wearing pink on my eyes today as well, but it's warm pinks. This is a K-Beauty palette, which I like a lot more than I had expected. It was super affordable. I very randomly spotted it on YESSTYLE, and this is the first time I'm using it, but I'm kind of liking it. I'm into it. So that's why I was like, maybe I can talk about some pinky tones. But these pinks have always looked really nice on me. I have mentioned in the past how I feel that pink can look very off on my skin tone. It can make it look like I've got pink eye. But with this, I feel it looks intentional. And knowing how much I like the Melt formula, would I miss this if it were to leave my collection somehow? Probably not, because as far as Melt palettes go, I don't go back to this one a lot, and I don't use it as often as I should, so together with like the Venus 3 and the Lorac Pro 4, it should just go into a Shop My Stash at some point to use it again, so maybe I can do it this spring, because it's definitely like a springtime color story to me as well. Would it tempt me if it came out today? The answer is probably yes, especially if it's a Melt palette. And I think, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 shimmers for a Melt palette. That's a lot. And I am attracted to these tones. So, yeah, this could be a contender for still being something I would be interested in, even if it came out today. We also need to discuss some indie brands, and this is the Creepy Cute from Shroud Cosmetics. This is from back in the day when they were still called Strobe, so mine still says Strobe at the bottom. And the Creepy Cute is essentially a pastel palette with a gray and a black. The only thing it's missing is a pastel yellow. I wish that instead of the peach, we got a yellow. Then it would have been better for me. And another thing I'm not hugely a fan of with this one is the fact that there are no shimmers. This was the first pastel palette I ever bought though. But would I miss this if I lost it, if this like disappeared from my makeup collection? I wouldn't, because I have purchased another pastel palette since this came out, which is the Pastel Pup from Menagerie, and that I deem to be like my perfect pastel palette. It has all the pastels I want. I do need to pair it with other shades in order for it to work, and that's true with this as well. Like this by itself, I want shimmer, I want something. So very often I will use these with like my highlighter for a bit of shimmer, and then it works quite well. The black I find a little bit too stark against these very light shades, so I prefer the gray, but the black is one of the best blacks ever made, and it's great as a liner. So yeah, would I miss it in my collection? No. Would I purchase it nowadays? You know, this is a tough one. because I love Shroud as a brand, and actually the Creepy Cute 2, which is the follow-up from this, has been on my Monolith wish list for the past 6 months. And there's a part of me that will eventually, like when it's like a little slow with the palette releases, that is one that I'm thinking of purchasing, because I want to complete the set, but I also really love the Shroud formula. So yeah, I think a part of me would be interested in this, especially if it came from a brand like Shroud. Like, I would be interested in buying something like this, but I would be much better aware of the limitations it would have for me, and it wouldn't be, like, I imported this from the US, so I paid good money for it. Like, I think, was this the only thing I bought, or did I buy it together with the Arcana? I'm not entirely sure, because it was a couple of years ago. But I remember buying this from the US website and having it shipped over and having to pay the shipping and handling fees. Like, I wouldn't go through that length anymore. Like, I wouldn't go to the length of me having to pay, like, almost double the price for a palette in order to get it to me. Especially because I now know it is available at Monolith. So I would probably buy it. But it wouldn't be like, ooh, I really need this in my life kind of feeling. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but yeah, it's sort of like an in-betweeny when it comes to that. I just mentioned Menagerie, and I don't think I've mentioned a lot of my Menagerie palettes in videos like this yet, so I wanted to break that stride with the Dragon Child, which was from before their name change. That's how old this is. This is Makeup Monsters. So Menagerie used to be called Makeup Monsters, and this is a very old palette. I'm not sure if this is still safe to use, but look at that color story. Like, here's the thing. I don't wear colors like this enough, especially not the reds that this has. I mean, it has a blood red shade. Like, it's called Mother Dragon. It's really pretty. But these two purples, and I know these are magnetic. I could very easily, like, change this around, but I like to keep it as is for some reason. The greens in here are nice, the blues. So this has a lot of colorful shades that I enjoy, that I just really enjoy. And Menagerie has some really, really good palettes. I haven't bought from them in a while, though. Like, I haven't been really interested in any of their releases ever. Like, here's what happened with Menagerie. And I think I bought the Pastel Pup after the pandemic. I don't know. But, like, a lot of things, of course, happened during the pandemic, and they had to shut down their international shipping, and I don't believe they've still brought it back for anyone. So they seem to have really been focusing more so on the US market, more so than anything else. And they haven't really released any new stuff either. So Menagerie is one of those brands where it's like in the back of my brain somewhere, and the palettes I have, I like. But yeah, this is just one where I'm like, it just has some really fun, colorful shades. Would this interest me nowadays? If this came out today, I think it would. I think it would. But again, I would know that the yellow and the red in the middle just would throw me off completely. Like, if I were to take out those two shades already, like, the rest of it is absolutely fine. Has some really nice vibrant shades. Would I miss this in my collection? You know what? I think I would, because I have been dwindling down my colorful eyeshadow palette collection. Like, that part of my makeup collection I've been decluttering from the most, because I'm like, you know, I'd rather hang on to the color stories I like, but I'm also not really interested in a ton of, like, super colorful things either. So this would definitely, like, it will stick around for sure. Would I repurchase it? I don't think so. Again, like Shroud, because I have to import this from the US, like, if I ever had the opportunity, like, this has not been around, of course. It's been discontinued for years. But even if I had the chance, I think I would just find it too expensive. Like, I will sometimes go through that length. Like, I will sometimes do that, where I will shell out the money to get some products imported and, like, pay the shipping and handling fees. But some brands have also been investing in getting their products onto European websites, or to have a European shipping facility, which makes shopping through them just so much easier that brands that do not offer that kind of, like, they're just not as interesting to me, if that makes any sense. So I don't think I would purchase this today. Next up, some more colorful things. The Odin's Eye Hella palette. It collabed with Angelica Nykvist. I don't think I have any other collab palettes with creators other than two from Angelica, which is the Hella palette from Odin's Eye and her collab with Kaleidos. I'm just usually not that interested in collab palettes, so I know it's super popular, but this is one I made an exception for. And I think you can see why, because it has those like greens with the yellows, which pulls very neutral actually. You get a row of pinks and then you have these murky shades. So Hela is the Norse goddess of life and death, and I have said this all the time when I was reviewing this. It's got a lot of life, but not enough depth in this palette. Like, I would have wanted more of this. So replacing the pink row with some more of these like murky shades would have had my preference. But this is a really pretty palette. Like, again, for the springtime, you have all of your spring greens, you get some murky browns. It just has some really, really good shades. I could do without the pinks. I could just do without the pinks. Like, if we were to cover these shades up, like that's sort of the palette for me, you know? Would I be interested in buying this again if it came out today? I think I would. I think I would, because I do appreciate this color story. Like, if I want to go green pink, then this is the color story I have. So I really do think this color story has something unique to offer that not a lot of other color stories have, yet it's still cohesive enough that you can work with it. So it would interest me if it came out today, also as a collab palette with any of the creators I'm following, really. But I don't think that I would miss it in my collection. Like, if I lost this somehow, this would not be like top of mind as something I would need to replace, because it's also not that unique in my collection as well. So it's not like the standout palette of all standout palettes. It is a fun one though. It's a really fun one to play with. Another really fun palette to play with. I think they still do this. I think this is still on the Juvia's Place website. It's the Festival palette from Juvia's Place. And this is one of the palettes that I consider to be my most out there palette, because in case you're unfamiliar, this is what the Festival palette looks like. It's very vibrant. Here's the thing. This mustardy yellow and also that peachy shade pull very neutral on me. So even though this looks like a very intense, colorful palette, I feel it's a little less colorful once you start playing with it. And also the orange and the red, when they blend out, because they have this neon quality on my fair skin, the red looks like a pink. So it goes perfectly well with this. This looks more like a neon peach and goes really well with this shade as well. And I just love these two shades at the bottom. So this bright blue, stunning, and also this dark gray shimmer is really pretty. And that's why I've never decluttered this. That's the only reason why I've never gotten rid of this, is because it's such a fun one. It's very unusual. Would I miss it in my collection? Probably not, because I have shades like this in other palettes. I'm thinking of the Surge palette that I have. I'm thinking of something like the Slush palette that I have. I'm pretty sure I can do looks with those palettes that I can do with this. So it's definitely not unique in my collection. But I just feel we don't get these kind of fun, colorful color stories anymore. Is it just me? Am I just being too nostalgic? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, the Festival palette from Juvia's is great. Would I miss this in my collection? Like I mentioned, I think I have other things that can do this. So the answer to that question would be no. But I definitely think that I would be interested in something like this, because I have tried some other palettes now that have taught me that even though these kind of shades look incredibly vibrant and intense, like they're going to be super unwearable and you're going to need hours to blend them, even though they look that way, you can very easily make it work. So I know that now about these kind of shades on myself. So yes, that might mean I would be interested in this if it came out today. And finally, the Book of Magic from Beauty Bay. This, of course, was limited edition a couple of years ago from the brand. And this was this my first Beauty Bay palette? No, the pastel palette from Beauty Bay was my first ever palette from Beauty Bay, which was not a good one. This one I liked, which is why I still have it. I kept this one in my collection as a placeholder to have a Beauty Bay palette around because I like the color story. It's blues, greens, purples. And blues, greens, and purples are my favorite colorful shades. This is why I don't need rainbow palettes, because in recent years we are getting more and more color stories like this. The Beauty Bay Book of Magic does have some neutrals that tie the whole thing together. Those are warm toned though, which don't really work for me. So if this was more like neutrally taupe leaning, it would be better for me, but these 4 shades are too warm toned to go with any of this. It has a really pretty like special shade here in the middle. We get a black, we get a dark gray, we get a navy. It's just that all of these shades pulled quite vibrant on my fair skin. I think this is better if you have medium to deep skin, because the depth of your skin is going to tone these down and make them look more muted. On me, it was like I was wearing like a white base under all of these, so it wasn't perfect for that reason. And if you're gonna watch my decluttering video at the end of the month, you will see what's gonna happen to this. I'm keeping this around to be filming a video with, but I'm not entirely sure I need to keep this around because I just have other blue, green, purple palettes in my collection now. The Winter Wonderland from Serenity, Cosmic Brushes came out. The Lure palette from Blend Bunny. Like, we've just been getting so many more brands doing color stories like this that I feel compete with this one for sure. So this is not one I would miss in my collection at all. Also because the Beauty Bay formula is just not my favorite. It just isn't. I don't like their formula. So many people rave about the Beauty Bay formula as being like really, really good. And I can see why. If you are someone who loves Boom Pigment, you're gonna love this. If you're someone who's like me, who wants their shades to be buildable, this is not your jam. It just isn't. So yeah, it is affordable makeup, so I don't want to knock it for that reason. It is incredibly pigmented and good quality for the price point. I just want other things for my shades. And because I have so many other palettes with this kind of color story, I know I wouldn't miss this and I would not be interested in it again. However, if this color story would be released by another brand whose formula I do like, Natasha Denona, Viseart, like if any of my favorite formula brands would come out with a color story like it, I would get sucked in, because blue, green, purple color stories, I cannot get enough. I've been buying like every single one that I can find. So yeah, if you have recommendations for blue, green, purple palettes, then please let me know, because I think they are one of the most fun things to play with, which is why I think this palette was a lot of fun to play with, but it's not special enough to me. So those were the 10 eyeshadow palettes I wanted to talk about in today's video. Thank you so very much for joining me. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make 4 videos over on this channel every single week. I make 1 video a week over on the second channel. And I have a blog where I post daily as well. So I will catch you in one of those places for sure. And then I hope to see you in my next video very, very soon. Bye-bye.